Hi, everybody. So today we're going to be going over discussion board prompts. So, how can we create an effective discussion board? The purpose of this is so that you can use the discussion board feature in Canvas and not just use it, but actually use it effectively. It's something that's used quite often now in classes, particularly at the higher education level, and it is now making its way into high school and primary schools as well. Essentially, what a discussion board is, it's just an online forum where the teacher posts a question that students respond to, and then most of the time, students will have to then respond to their peers or have a requirement to respond to peers. Currently, in my master's program that I'm taking, the common thing was they'd post the response or the prompt. You had to respond by Thursday, and then by Sunday you had to respond to two of your peers. So it's just the purpose is to create dialogue outside of the classroom. And in an entirely online course, it's the only way to have dialogue with other students. So it's one way to do that, and it can be really effective if done the correct way. However, it has kind of become somewhat of an internet joke. Typically, students will be responding to a prompt about a reading, and then it says respond to two peers, respond to three peers, and the responses get kind of bad. For example, here's a meme I found on the internet. Student, I love bread. The response, Joe, I agree with you. I love bread too. I like the part where you said you love bread. Great point. If you've been a part of any discussion boards, you'll notice that this definitely does happen a lot. And a lot of it can be avoided from the teacher perspective if we just make a more effective discussion prompt. So when this situation typically happens is when we make discussion prompts that are read this section, provide a summary, right? If they're providing a summary, there really isn't that much to respond to, right? The students pick a part of it that they agreed with and basically emphasize that, and the responses aren't that meaningful. All right, some ways to avoid this is to use the discussion board in effective ways. So one way is to actually make it on a debatable subject. So for example, you might want to pose some sort of issue. Let's say you are a biology teacher and you want to teach about effective alternatives to fossil fuels. You might want to post a debate question that is, using the sources below, please select one clean energy source that would be the most reliable and you think that the United States should invest in. And then the students have a bunch of different paths to take. Then you could have a student say, oh, well, let's have someone from nuclear energy debate someone from solar energy, and have a student debate somebody else who had a different belief. Or you could make students actually pick the opposite side, which I've found in social studies is a really, really good tool. So, for example, if you're teaching something with politics, if you have a student who you can tell clearly has certain political beliefs, one side or the other, make them argue the opposite. And it's a really good tool because it makes our students see both sides of an argument. And then it's easy. They just respond to someone who has a different view for them. This will get us away from the I love bread meme, okay, and into some more meaningful discourse. Another thing you could do is a role play. Role playing is a great idea, and as a history teacher, my examples always tend to go towards history, but, having a certain historical figure, each person responds trying to match what that person would say, and then you can make them debate other people based off what that person was to say. So if I was doing a government class, right, maybe you would have one student be maybe you'd have one student be Nancy Pelosi, well, another student is Mitch McConnell, and they would be debating back and forth, one giving the Republican ideologies, one giving the Democratic ones. So just some ideas, the role plays. could help make some meaningful discourse. The other thing you do is post a scenario. So basically an idea where there's a situation where there's multiple ways to handle it. And you can even combine role play and scenario, like give people different roles and then say, how would you respond to this scenario? And then say, have students then debate with one another which scenario was the best way to go about fixing this problem. Okay, basically it's just pose your idea and then post your support to someone who has a differing idea of why you like your view versus somebody else's. And then the last one, and this is one of the easier ones and actually one of the best ways to do peer review. If you have students working on essays or projects, have them post their project to a discussion board prompt, and then after that, they can then reply to each other, hey, I read your essay, here's some notes that I took down for corrections. Something like that, and it creates a much more meaningful discussion. So now that you guys have learned a little bit about how to use a discussion board prompt, I'm going to show you how to actually make one in Canvas. So if we were to go back to the Canvas page, all right, all you have to do is once you're on your Canvas page, go on the left-hand side, you click Discussions. Okay, and then you're going to create a new discussion in the top right-hand corner. So we're just going to name this Sample Discussion 1. So in this discussion, you want to, or in this part, you're going to want to do a couple things. One, you're going to want your prompt in there. Two, make sure you put any sort of regulations for students so that they know, especially if this is going to be evaluated, what the expectation is. So if maybe you want to say, please respond to the following prompt. Okay, and you posted the prompt on here. Maybe it could be, let's do that example I did for science. Which clean energy source should the United States invest in? Why? And then maybe you could have different sources under there for the reading. Then, so now they have their prompt. Now you want to give some criteria for grading. Okay. Please write in paragraph form, citing all arguments. Then respond to at least 2 of your peers before the end. For the end of the week. Post your opinion by Wednesday at midnight. Okay, so this just gives them a little background on what they're going to be doing. You expect it to be in paragraph form. You expect them to cite any of their arguments. All right, so now that you have the prompt created, all right, you have some decisions. Okay, one, you can post an attachment if you want. So if you wanted to post readings or something like that, obviously this is an easy way to do it. All right, now you have some options. So you do want to normally allow threaded replies because this allows students to respond to one another and then respond to the replies, which is a very good practice to have. Also, if you want, you can have users post before seeing replies. This can be useful because then you know they're getting an original post and an original idea without just reading everybody else's posts. Enable podcast feed. If you want to have them respond in a podcast, you can. That's a creative use for this. We're not going to do that right now, but you could. Graded. So if you want this to be graded, which I would highly encourage, click the graded section and then you have some options. So first you'd make it a point total. I normally do discussions for 5 points, but once again, you can do this however you want. And then you just simply pick your due date. Let's say mine was for next Sunday. Okay. Then once you have all this, the last option you have is allow liking. I don't really see much of a purpose for that. You could, if you wanted to have it be something like everyone votes for the best argument they had or something like that, and whoever gets the most likes wins. You could definitely include that somehow. However, I'm not going to include it in this. So that would be how you make your standard discussion. If you want to make a group discussion, that's great. You just need to create the groups, and you could randomly create the groups as well. This ties right in with the creating groups, that lesson we saw a couple videos ago. And you can create groups. I like to do this, especially if you want to get a more intimate group discussion between just a few of your students rather than opening it up to the whole class. Also great for peer review. If you want to make peer review groups, this is one really good way to do it. So definitely a good feature. I'm not going to do it for this exact one, but if you want to do it, you would just put, discussion groups 1, okay, and then you could randomize it, okay, and you could split the students into however many groups you want, probably require them to be in the same section, and then you hit save, okay, and then it's the same with the leadership. But you do not need to do that. Also, you can require peer reviews, but you don't need to do that if you're making a peer review assignment. You could simply make this whole thing, please post your argumentative essays on clean energy sources and provide feedback to at least 2 peers. Okay, you could easily just do something like this to get a peer review, and it'll be just as effective, and you can make it for points so that everybody does it, and then all you have to do is hit save and publish, and this is all created. Okay, so that is how you make a discussion both effectively, and then also how you can make it quickly and on Canvas. Once again, thank you guys for paying attention, and I hope you learned something.